Greetings, everyone, especially all the early birds that got here early. Let's hear them out over there. Thank you so much. I always appreciate the early birds, but I appreciate everyone that makes it to the stream. Okay, so producers, let's give some shout outs to the early birds on the stream today. And I want to say while she's doing that, we're going to get ready for, right now it's a fairly new segment called Throwback Thursday TikTok. And if you didn't catch that segment the last time I was on the stream doing it, it's the segment where we share some of our most well-received TikToks from back in the day. Okay, so if you don't follow us on TikTok, you could find us on at VS Code. And the same videos are also shorts on YouTube. All right. And on our YouTube, that channel is youtube.com/code. But those links are in the description, so you could check them out there. And then we'll throw them up at the end of the show also. Okay. So I've got two videos, two nice shorts that I wanted to show. So without further ado, Throwback TikTok Thursday.
I call this poem Top Programming Languages to Learn the Myth. In comes a Java maximalist saying it must be at the top because it runs on 2 billion devices, despite its dirty history with web applets. In comes a C++ maximalist boasting it must be at the top because of its efficiency, despite its dirty history with pointers. Ugh. In comes a JavaScript maximalist demanding it must be at the top because it's everywhere. Hey, I'm JavaScript, despite its dirty history with plagiarizing the Java brand name. But what these maximalists don't tell you is that there is no top 3, top 5, top 10 languages, but there are top developers. Those are real. Top developers that spends the months and years learning their language's strengths and weaknesses to build greatness. And then in comes confidence, in comes opportunity.
Don't say it, 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 don't say it.
It works on my machine.
Yes, I love that last one. I'm sure a lot of people could relate. The famous last words. It works on my machine. So there you go. Throwback TikTok Thursday. So moving along, our show today is about AKS Tools Extension. So to get started, I want to welcome our guests. There's going to be two guests. There's Tatsat Mishra and Rong Zhang. So to kick it off, we're going to bring up Rong Zhang first. So let's give a hand for her.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Ronald, for bringing me up here live. And good morning, everyone. Nice to meet you here in the live stream.
Yes, thank you so much for joining, Rong. And yeah, let's go ahead and jump right into it. What you got to show us?
Yeah, I wanted to kind of like start to talk about how we start to building these like fancy features in the AKS extension with VS Code. So basically, it started as I am the PM for AKS supportability. We had like a tool called Diagnose and Solve Problem Blade. You can find it in the Azure Portal. So a customer, they have like issues on their cluster, they can always run this tool in Azure Portal. So one day I was thinking like, oh, this is a good tool that helps a lot of customers can self-troubleshoot the issues on the AKS cluster. What about the users are using like, the VS Code on the like a CLI side? Can we bring something to them as well? So I talked to Tats like, hey, Tats, do you think if we can do something kind of like this to bring this diagnostic tool in the VS Code side? And then he was like, yeah, sounds like a great idea. So kind of we start building this. Yeah, so you can see we have this very nice.
Quick question. So if you could scroll back down, just want to reiterate this because I know some people in the comments are gonna ask this. So AKS stands for Azure Kubernetes, right? I think you had that at the
Yes.
top of your
Yeah, yeah.
documentation.
This is AKS Azure Kubernetes Service. Yeah.
All right. And was before you even got into this, had you ever worked on like building any extensions before?
No, this is my first extension with Tats. Yeah.
Nice. All right. So yeah, go ahead and continue, and I'll jump in with like some questions from the chat that's starting to get really livened up right now.
Cool. Yeah, so we have this doc. It's very clear to show like what are the tools we have in the AKS extension. The entire process is very easy. I think Tats will show probably later on like how exactly this works. But basically is you go to the marketplace of VS Code, download and install the AKS extension, and then you can just do like a very simple right clicks on your AKS cluster or like with right click one single right click, you can create a cluster, and then you do like these different things to help you provision the Azure resources, to help you like the diagnosis, the issues that you may have on your cluster, or to help you, like check your properties and then manage some of the DevOps work in this tool. Yeah, so you can see the UI is very simple, straightforward, just like lots of right clicks on one step, straightforward. Yeah. And the one I mentioned before is like how we started is the diagnostics. We provide like a lots of ways to help you diagnose in different aspects of your AKS clusters to help you like decide whether you need to do this scalar up or down or like some other best practices you can try on. So I think Taz can give us like a little bit more details on like the best practices for the diagnostics.
Great. And just a quick question regarding like the best practices. Now, is this something that you started uh, documenting like right away, or were there some issues that you noticed some people were going through, and then you added the best practices?
Yeah, originally we found out like for customers they have many questions when they use AKS. Many of those are kind of like operational questions. So we wanted to guide the customers like for the best experience on they operate the AKS. Like when they create a cluster, when they upgrade, when they delete, these kind of things. So we built a cluster of different like gadgets, like kind of tools here, where customer can run this thing and then to show the customer, hey, these are the best practices you can follow in the operation of getting AKS clusters in the best stage. Yeah, so then this really helps the customer and then give them like a many clear guidance on how they can really get the best performance of their cluster. And then I bring this to cats like saying, how about we just get this into the VS Code side for the open source community, for the customers, the users are using, like the CLI, they can have something really quick, really fast to go here. They don't really need to go to the Azure Portal UI, they can just one click and then show like the exact same results as they can see from Azure Portal. Yeah.
Nice. All right. Has there been what was like the biggest challenge during your journey of like creating this?
I think there are some we are considering is like the experience. So basically, I think there are two major things we're considering during like getting this. One is like what are the experience we want to bring in to the customers are using VS Code you like in the open source side. And second is like what experience we want to show to customers. So we started with the best practice, because that is like the most popular areas in AKS that we really wanted to help the customer, really wanted to guide them into the right like the operational like a best practice. That's we decided here. And then we need to kind of consider like what is the best experience for the customer to use it, the actual user experience. So that we discussed like kind of like how we want a user to use it. So basically this tool is in Azure Portal. We definitely don't want a customer to go back to Azure Portal again. So that's our goal, is to provide like the convenience, the one step, one click, this kind of convenience to our customers. So we decided kind of like we just show like the direct like results in the VS Code directly after they have this right click. So they can see like what is there. And then we also provide this convenience that if the customer really wanna still go back to Azure Portal, they can have a one click go back to Azure Portal as well. Yep.
Nice. And convenience being the big word here. Anything that makes developers' lives easier is supreme.
Yeah, baby.
All about convenience. All right. So let's go ahead and take a look now. Shall we bring up Tatsat right now then?
Yeah, let's get Tats here.
All right, Tatsat, welcome.
Hey, how are you?
Okay. It's going. I'm doing great, and it seems like everyone's doing good here. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump into it.
Nice. So, like Rong has rightly said, we wanted to make this as easy for the customer as possible. So if you're in your VS Code editor, you go to your extensions. To download this extension, you search for Azure Kubernetes services, and then you'll find this guy in here. And pretty much because it's installed, I don't have the install button, but for the new user, it'll be install button. And then currently it has all sorts of information, as a 200,000 download and so on and so forth. So let's jump into the actual extension and how it works. This so for the first time user will have their login here. This is called Cloud Explorer, and this is called Cluster Explorer. I'll minimize this one because this extension kind of focuses on the Cloud Explorer, and then there's a transition.
And quick note, quick note to everyone in the chat: if you need the fonts to be bigger, just drop a 1 in there. I think we might be fine, but yeah, that looks good.
Cool.
So continue. Yeah.
Yes, essentially, once you're logged in, it'll show your subscription, and when you go dig into your subscription, it'll show details of your clusters, how many clusters you have. So this whole journey kind of started from the incubation idea Ralph Ivan and Brendan Burns had. And then we kept on adding more user feature with the mindset of doing heavy lifting upfront for the user, and developer experience, like you said, was key in this.
Okay,
so Rong was talking about.
Wait, just at the beginning again, because I know some people might miss that. You said the journey began from the mindset of who?
So Ralph, Ivan, and Brendan Burns. Brendan Burns, as in one of the co-founder of Kubernetes.
Got it. Okay.
Who had this idea with Chi that we want something developer experience for VS Code audience, for those power user or beginners or intermediate who don't want to leave their VS Code experience. And they can get those information which they have to browse somewhere else into their VS Code integrated experience, which kind of was a groundbreaking for me, because I utilized that coming new to AKS at that point when Rong started this idea, was completely making sense, as in I'll see a lot of work which will take 3 steps, and this extension kind of squeezes it down to like right click, 1 click.
Okay.
So I'm going to take it through the first thing Rong was talking about, which is called Run AKS Diagnostics. These are the AKS detectors which reside in your portal diagnose and solve blade. So under the hood, there is detector which has an ARM call. So right now I'm just going to run the best practices, and what will happen, I'm going to zoom out a little for the users to see that for the user there'll be an upload, and this kind of tells you what exactly it is doing. as an experience. And then it'll present user with a boom, nice looking web view. And then it'll tell if there's something wrong with my cluster, it is going to provide me the links and what exactly went wrong. Right now, my cluster is in healthy state. It has load balancer has no issues, and pod security policies are fine. So let's go ahead and run another detector just to show the kind of information it can show.
Okay.
Again, similar experience. And boom, it goes in, gets the ARM call, and gets the data and tells me what is happening underneath my cluster. How's it looking? How's my subnet? What's my DNS? And
Nice.
so on and so forth. So this is, yeah.
So let me ask you, what's the pain point if someone wasn't taking the process that you awesomely are showing us right now? What would they have to like end up doing like to get the same like results? That's like the longer way then.
If this didn't existed, so for example, I have a network issue. So I didn't know if I created some app which was looking into another subnet which is not allowed or whatever was the thing. I will actually contact customer support before the detector existed, or I need to go to my portal and go to Diagnose and Solve blade to actually see, hey, is there anything available which kind of tells me about my network and connectivity? But now we have made that hidden thing more visible by just one click saying, well, you want to know more about your network and connectivity? Here you go. Or your best practices right now? There you go. So it's kind of a monitoring going on the run for your cluster, and we have just bubbled it up as a first-hand information for the user. So you don't have to go like first read it, kind of find it from somewhere and then go through portal. So it's right there in your right click with your AKS cluster.
Nice.
So
by the way, I want to mention everyone in the chat, like as you come up with a question, just drop them in there. So this is the time to ask any clarification that you need regarding anything. But feel free to drop it in there. Yeah, go ahead and continue.
Yeah. So now this is I'm going to get into like exciting stuff now. So now I'm sure there are many folks who have seen that AKS power of Azure Kubernetes itself is really high end, and there can be many things which you can do, and it's just an orchestration of various things. But AKS Periscope is a known tool. This is an open source tool which is used for collecting logs from your cluster when there is something wrong and your cluster is no longer working. So you kind of want to get a whole lot of log and give it to CSS engineer, or might be you want to diagnose by yourself. So this feature comes to use when things are going wrong. But one thing about this tool is for the power user, they would know where in that YAML they need to change storage account names, and how to deploy a daemon set. But imagine the beginner or an intermediate user who are in their VS Code experience, and they just don't want to leave their VS Code editor and make the YAML changes and so on and so forth. So we have make it easy for them. So I'll show you how easy it is. The first thing user does is he goes to his or she goes to their portal, change the diagnostic setting to the storage account, and all they have to do is select Run AKS Periscope, and under the hood, boom, it goes in and diagnose. It kind of tells user what is happening, generating stats for you. So all user need to do is sit back, relax, and let it run. And in the end, the result is going to be, now it is deploying to your cluster. Now the tool AKS Periscope is getting deployed.
Now, Doug Fink, I think I pronounced his last name right, hopefully, is asking, are those diagnostics runnable outside of VS Code?
They are tools which are runnable outside these VS Code. For example, Periscope can be deployed as a daemon set, but it's just 3 to 4 steps to do that, and we have boiled it down to one click. So imagine if you're deploying run for AKS Periscope, you need to go and find out your storage account name, Azure storage account name, and Azure SaaS key, and then carefully replace it into a daemon set. And then you deploy your kubectl apply -f daemon set for your cluster context. And then, so a lot of things, and surely power users sometimes like to do that. But for the beginners or intermediate, it is a lot of steps, and one thing gone wrong leads to why it is not working. Yet their goal is to just collect the log. And this is on one click. And it kind of like just ran fine and it has successfully run. Now I'm going to do the generate link part. So we have gone a step ahead and we have said, okay, we have uploaded to your storage, but now we want to actually fetch that data for you for shareable link or the downloadable link. So it has gone through my cluster, took all the logs out of my node logs and cluster, and then it is going to generate those download links. And that's what it is doing, and talking to the storage.
All right.
And
one quick comment, question by Malkru. They ask if, no, not by Malkru. Who asked? Yeah, no, it was by Malkru. If you could maximize your window, but I think you have like most of your window showing. Malkru, if you're talking about you need to see the text better and you need to hit to zoom in, mention zoom in. Otherwise, if there's something outside the window you wanted to see that you can't see, just mention that and I'll ask. Okay. Let's see. I think there was like one other question. No, I think we're good. So sorry about that.
No, all good. So what? Now we have a downloadable link. All I'm gonna do is like show the user what happens. Well, because I'm on Mac, it just pinged me that hey, I've downloaded something. And how it'll look like is if I go to my Finder, that's my download, and this is the whole detail, and it kind of has my network logs, my pod logs, system pod log, pod distribution budget, node logs, cube objects, and this is like gold for CSS engineers and sometimes people who know how to debug to see what exactly happened and where. So we kind of have summed or connected the dots for the user in here and made it easy as one-click feature rather than going and doing all those steps which we were talking about. And then we have kind of made it easy for the user for 7-day shareable, so they can click in here and then attach it to the email, which will be a link, and the CSS engineers can download it for you, and all user need to do is just share this link.
Nice.
If there are any questions, otherwise I'll move to the other feature.
We're good. Yeah, go ahead and continue. You must be doing a great job explaining everything because not too many questions are coming through. So go ahead.
Awesome. Yeah, no, it's the whole point was to actually make things easy for the user. So next is the navigational features. So like now there are different flavors coming. One is the diagnostic, another one is collect the logs, and then now it is going to be one thing I personally found, and this is organic feature, which someone like Pete suggested me that, hey, how cool it'll be that I'm in my VS Code and I'm working on something and I want to directly go to the cluster, not the portal experience of I go to portal, then I search for my resource, and then I click on the resource. So it's like 5 clicks down, I go to my cluster. So we have just resolved that problem as well. So you kind of just go show in Azure Portal, and bam, it goes, kind of logs you in, all that kind of, it's called deep linking, and it will exactly go to your cluster, and then you can avoid all that navigation to search for your cluster name and go to your services, go to your subscription, and you're right there, whatever information you want to fetch. So it's a usability for navigation feature we did, which is kind of like a quite well-used feature as well between the community.
Great. It's like a very advanced shortcut. Very slick.
Exactly. And yeah, I was surprised when I kind of I saw how many people were using this. Moving on to the other one, it's called show properties. This is again, it came out organically from discussion with folks where, so I'm going to click on that. And what it does is it goes and collects it calls the container services SDK. and then can kind of gets you the data of that cluster, the key properties. So for example, a lot of time developers want to know what Kubernetes version my cluster is running at without moving like out of my VS Code. And now you can do that for multiple cluster at the same time, compare them, kind of use FQDNs for your GitHub workflow actions. You can see the power state, you can see the agent pool name, the Ubuntu, like what OS it is working on. And this kind of information you have to previously hunt it down via the portal page, and then kind of see, oh, so this information is there, and then node information is on a node tab, and then power state will be on overview tab. So we have accumulated the key information on just one click for the user who's working in VS Code.
To have like a snapshot basically of what they need.
Exactly.
Quick question from, sorry, quick question from Omar. It says, he asks, any plans for AKS for AWS service?
Also, this is very specific. This extension is AKS Tools extensions, and it is prima facie uses Azure login for those purposes. And we have not thought about, because it's still in very early stage, we are focused on Azure resources. So Azure Kubernetes services is our target to make developers' life easy for now on that scope. And once we have enough people backing us, very likely, So right now it's just probably me and Pete and Rong kind of work on this. So that's my answer. Not right now.
All right, cool. So go ahead and continue then.
Cool. So essentially, while you're here as a dev experience, and like you were saying, it is a perfect snapshot right now. We realized that reached out to Azure CLI folks, and CLI folks told us that, hey, we'll share some data. And top 5 commands, one of the 2 were start and stop clusters. And we were like, oh, how cool it'll be to just add the start and stop cluster button in our VS Code experience, because it's one of the highly used commands in AZ CLI, and it makes sense for the usability and developer experience for VS Code folks. So we added this stop and start cluster button. So essentially how it works is, like it is like, seriously, sometimes it kind of becomes exciting because the opportunity it kind of opens for the user. So I don't know why I clicked there, but let's stop this cluster. Or might be not this cluster, use the other one, because I'll use this cluster for other users. All right, I'm gonna zoom out a little and get here, boom. All right, awesome. So I'm on this cluster and I'm gonna stop it. So right now it has 1 node and so on and so forth. Moment you do stop, it'll do the same loop back cycle for the user, like update you from the messaging services here that it is getting the data now, and then loading the data. And what will happen is I'll say, cool, your cluster is in stopping state now. So obviously the user will, as an experienced user, cannot click it twice. And this is kind of an internal thing where it goes to a documentation, which kind of an Azure Kubernetes documentation, which says that you don't do too much start and stop. But we kind of go over the error state, because via VS Code, we have more control in this action. So once you have stopped it, you can't do any other action to actually, start it again. So it kind of, there's no problem there. And
you just have to make sure that if you want to start it, that there's like no going back right away, right?
Yeah, indeed. Exactly. And then while this is stopping, and this is kind of like a feature which I realized, oh, let's do it. And then you kind of see how much usage it is coming out with. It's kind of like, yeah, we are hitting the right developer experience points. And while this is stopping, what I can do is, we can come back to this. Let's go to the create GitHub workflows. This actually came into, the genesis of this was people saying, hey, there are starter workflow for AKS and GitHub Actions. And
Okay.
how cool it'll be if I want to. So by this time, I have all the Azure Kubernetes cluster information, which is needed for VS Code to log in with me. So the idea from, I think, Tom, and I'm just taking names so that they feel that they're part of this journey, is that I just pretty much fill the gap. So when you right click on your cluster and you say, let's Helm workflow, it goes in and it kind of pre-populates some of the data for you. So like resource group, your cluster name. So a user just need to put their container name here, and all they can want to do is like save it to their project file, and they are done. Their workflow is pretty much ready for their app to be registered. And we kind of made it easy that user, I'm sure like power user can still easily navigate this through, but for a lot of users, they're seeing all this for the first time and they get overwhelmed. Oh, where should I change the resource group, and so on and so forth. So yeah, this was something.
Can you zoom in just a little bit so we could see the parameters that they have to populate? All right.
Yeah, so cool. This was my cluster name, and this was like resource name, which is not showing, but we got it from the information we have. And rest is just like a normal GitHub workflow for the apps, which help.
Right.
So yeah, it kind of like eases those users who are like, what it is I'm doing for the first time and don't want to make mistake, but yet I'm kind of playing. So fill it what you know for me, and then I will fill the rest, kind of thing. So yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, it kind of don't save this. So sorry, Reynolds, you were saying something?
No, I was just going to ask actually about the screen right here, if it was still, if you're still waiting on it, or.
No, let's do a check. Show properties. Also, yes, thanks for reminding. Cool. I'll go determine the cluster state. Wherever. Boom! It stopped. Awesome. And your state is 0.
Nice.
So
nice.
You kind of now started. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's good when things are working, when we're on live stream.
Well, exactly. And then last but not the least right now, and the idea is that we are still scratching the surface. We want to, for at least Azure Kubernetes services, we want to make it to the point where users don't have to leave the VS Code experience, or they have much better, and we do all the heavy lifting at this end, is install Azure Service Operator. So Azure Service Operator is like a service. It's an open source tool which allows Azure resources to get connected to the cluster, and it kind of helps in like orchestrating the services together with Kubernetes. And the way it works is currently Azure Service Operator has about 7 steps to install it to the cluster. So again, it'll have the certificate manager to be installed and so on and so forth. Since it has so we have provided enough links. At this point, we only need 2 information from the user, because these are service principal, hence this web view for the user to generate, and it's one AZAD command, which user can do it. Once we have these information, and because it has password, I have pre-run this for one of the cluster.
Okay.
I kind of go in here, and it does these heavy lifting. So for my test June cluster, I had a cert manager, which I automatically installed, and then operator gets installed. So all these things, if you go to the Azure Service Operator homepage, they will tell you to go through the steps, and people will go through those steps because they are clearly written. But what we have done is pretty much kind of provided this one-click feature to just provide us the information which we need, and then we will do it for you in one click. And the result to that is that once it's successfully installed and you merge your, so usually just to detail what is merged, the merge into kubeconfig will get your kubeconfig data into your kubeconfig, and then your cluster will start appearing here, and then you set as current cluster context. You will have this thing called Azure Services, and when you go dig a little deeper, you will have all the services, Azure service resources available. And if you're creating those resources for your cluster, here you go, all these resources. Then
Nice.
you will have those appearing under your cluster, and this is not even leaving your VS Code experience, and you're still in your VS Code experience and in your VS Code editor. So yeah, so I think this is one of the last feature I had. What I think is, like I said, we are still scratching the surface, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of things we can do. We can make things easy for the user. Again, do the heavy lifting like I showed you for Periscope, or navigational feature, or ASO heavy lifting again, or anything which people think that which make their life easy. They can always reach out to us via our GitHub repository. And I'm sure Rong is going to share a whole lot of resources in the end as well. But yeah, no, if there's any other question, Renault, or anything I can explain.
No, everything looked really good. Thanks so much for all that information.
No, thank you so much. Thank you.
So right now, are you ready for a little lightning round question? It's just a little segment where we're just gonna. I have like 4 questions. I'll split them between both of you. Okay. All right. So off the top of your head, you have like 2 seconds to answer. Right. We'll start with Rong. Rong, what was the best day at work that you had ever?
Any day?
Any day, yeah. What happened? Real quick, short answer.
I want to say today because I'm go live.
I thought I was expecting something like, oh, when I got hired or something. Tots. All right. Next question. Your favorite computer language? Serious question. This is my serious face.
Haskell, I would say.
Haskell. All right.
Yeah.
Well, let's give it up for Haskell. Haskell. I think that's forget the guy that created one of like the crypto languages. He's a big fan of that for ADA. So next question. You know what I'm talking about, right? I think it's
Yeah.
Next question. For Rong, your biggest engineering challenge that you faced and your quick solution, or what was your solution?
I don't know how to find the bug of the when if I'm coding, for example, I see there's a bug. I don't know how to debug this problem. It has been like it has been a thing like a kind of like a with me all the time. Like it stressed me out a lot. Yeah. Solution. I'll leave my computer, calm down, go outside, get a coffee, and come back. Yeah.
Yes. Give it up for relaxation so you can have that clear mind when you come back with the solution.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah.
All right. One last question before we wrap up everything. Tatsat, you have to choose one to find your solutions. Stack Overflow or YouTube that you have to keep for the rest of your life. That's a good one, huh?
Stack Overflow.
Stack Overflow. You had your heart beating for that one. You're like, oh, that's a hard choice. All right.
It is. I wanted to say YouTube because the YouTube is actually becoming the resource of a lot of information. And these days I'm going to YouTube more than Stack Overflow.
Yeah, I've always thought that Stack Overflow should incorporate videos in it and have like them both together.
Exactly, right? I mean, that'll be you have just given an amazing idea. And I think somewhere, some down the line, somebody will implement it. This is a free idea, actually. This is amazing.
Yeah.
And it kind of opens the real thing. Like you have real people talking, and then you have the solutions, and then you kind of connect the dot. Again, what we did for this extension versus merging these two ideas of video versus Stack Overflow.
Yeah.
Great. So if people want to get a hold of you guys, what's like the best way to get a hold of you? I know Rong has her, I believe it's the Twitter up. Both of you guys have your Twitter. Any other social media we should mention throw out there or
Yeah,
links?
I'm in GitHub with Tatsat alias, and I'm sure people can reach out to us via our repository for the feature requests, and we can actually discuss in our VS Code, because this is truly a VS Code, like an open source tool. So even though all the source code is in the GitHub and visible to everybody, so they can go to issues, they can add a feature request tag, and then we can discuss how we can make the user's life easy and developer experience, and grow this developer experience to next level. So,
Yeah, yeah, definitely. As you can see, like many of these features are naturally come to us when we are doing something, when our customer doing something, our users doing something, they come up to us saying like, hey, can we build this? Can we build that? So super, super important. If you think of any idea can make your life easier, basically our goal is to make your developer life easier. Let us know, like just get us like feature requests on GitHub, so we're able to handle that, and we can
yeah,
build this like open source community bigger and stronger altogether. Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Renal, can I
Yeah.
probably I just want to shout out a few guys who actually help us, me and Rong, a lot in the user
Yeah.
experience. If
Yeah.
that's cool, can I take some names?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Go ahead, please.
yeah. So Ralph, Ivan, Brendan, Chi, Dave, Tom, Andy, Pete, Rong, and George. Uh, I'm sure I've covered most of these people, and they have some input for some features so far, and we really appreciate. And we'll make sure whoever is bringing next feature to this, we will thank you for that, and we'll go ahead and implement those for you. So yeah,
All
thank you
right.
so
No,
much for this journey so far.
no,
Great.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're saying you're very welcome, and seems like you might have forgotten like a name in there, and they'll probably never help you again. But you know, just say it's a broad statement.
Maybe.
No, thanks so much for coming out, giving this awesome presentation. Okay, and this concludes this live stream, everyone. So, producer, if you want to go ahead and throw up our social media info for everyone in the future that wants to like get a hold of us, you could reach us. If you could see our content on TikTok at VS Code, and also we're on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/code. So that should be it. And
All
see
right.
everyone
Thank you.
on the next stream. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye
Take care.
everyone.
All
Thank
right.
you, Ren.
Take care everyone. Bye.
Credits.